Anyway, hate to be a little drum, but I just, I've been watching a couple of news articles this weekend and last night, and the country's really getting crazier and crazier. So, and I'm saying the same thing in hopes to get people's attention, because we need to have a united middle class. A united and healthy middle class creates a strong America. And you have to listen to who wants that to happen and has ways of making it happen. And then we need to vote people in and vote people out according to their strengths or weaknesses. And it's going to take some time to do, to get finally a handle over our political system, because we have no handle over this. And the founding fathers gave us this, we owe it to them. They weren't perfect people, but and they were elites, but they at least saw that this country, the middle class of this country, needs to run the important issues directed by our politicians. And just like you have the head of a company and you have the crew of a company, if that's not going right in a company, one or the other, that company goes out, right? Well, this country is much, obviously a whole different scenario, but it matches a bit, because we're on the way to communism right now, or socialism, and there's just no getting around that fact that either we come together and we pull together and we look out for our neighbors and we talk to each other and we do those things that our founding fathers gave us the freedom to do, and or we don't have a society anymore. Anyway, we're going to start getting this down. I'm still working on some lighting. Barbie's moving to California, so she's going to be producer Barbie remote. But I think we might be able to get her on camera this way. So with all of that said, you guys have a great weekend. Say hi to each other. Go out and say hi to somebody. Just wave at them, man. Start that way. Just wave at them. Every time you see them, wave at them. If you don't know them. And then you'll see the reaction change, evolve. You'll see the body language evolve. Go out and say hi to a couple of people today. Anyway, love you guys. Thanks for being here. I keep threatening every show to take that off. And you know what? I made the number one green horrible mistake. I'm guessing, because I didn't ask Avi his proper name, so he's gonna slap me when I get on there, because that was irresponsible and ugly and all those other things. But then again, you folks that are with me, I know that I kind of like joking around, and I don't take this thing too serious, but every subject is extremely serious, because this is a show about and for and to engage the great middle class. Politics is a core of it. Finance is a core of it. Technology, the AI. If you go back through our shows, you'll see quite a bit of range and topic, including today, which is, for a person, arbitration is formal at times in their life, but it's always there, right? We're always managing the arbitration of this comment or conflict or whatever. And so I'm gonna shut up for a second here. I'm gonna let him on and be nice to me, okay? Because I screwed up. All right, hold on. But I am early. Hey, you.
Hey, how are you?
Just to give you a sampling of how the show kind of goes. If you haven't seen any episodes, that's kind of how it goes.
Totally cool. My name, by the way.
What did I say wrong? Avi?
Avi.
That's what I guessed. But see, now people are jumping off. I think they're mad at me. All right. So, Avi, we gave a little introduction there. I kind of like to throw things back at you and then come back and, you know, I always like to say this. You're the expert. Each expert is the expert. I know a little tiny bit about a lot of things. I know a lot about a couple of things, but my point being is we work back and forth. Should have gone through this earlier, but no. The reason I say that is because I'll be kind of interjecting a question, because if I understand it, not being an expert, anybody can understand. I'm just average Joe, I am, right? But I'm very curious. So work with me in the back and forth with the questions. Okay.
Got it. Perfect.
All right. We got all the rules. Oh, wow. They know when we're finishing all the boring stuff, and now they're jumping on. All right. So Avi, I'm gonna mess with you every now and then and have some fun with this. But we always have a great show. And a lot of the reasons people come on is because we're just straight talk. We're talking about it. We're not just scraping the surface of something. And so let's dig a little deep. What do you say?
That sounds exciting.
Kick it off, brother.
Okay. Where would you like to start from?
Well, go back through your background to give kind of a setup of why you're in this business of arbitration, this business, so give some background, and then from there we'll build off some subjects.
Okay, so in a nutshell, I grew up in a religious community, in the Orthodox Jewish community.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's very religious.
Yeah, very religious, and I still am. And part of religion, I would say we spend most of our day studying conflict. That's what you do, right?
Oh, really?
Oh, not like I would say 99.9% of the day is studying.
Okay, dig that down a little bit. Explain that. I get it, but it's an interesting concept.
It's pretty simple. That means what most people study when you're a kid, you study biblical text. Biblical text doesn't have that much conflict in it. Of course, there are stories about conflict, but the ideas are like God wrote a book to Moses and read it. What happened then was about 700-800 years after the biblical text was given, after the Jews left Egypt and they received it, there started arguments on what did God really mean. And what they published was in year 500, at the same time as the New Testament was published, something called the Talmud. I don't know if you ever heard of the Talmud.
I have.
The Talmud is just a text of arguments. There's not one page.
Jump in for a second, Avi. You just moved this from, I'm really excited about doing it, but blowing my mind because we get into religions and discussions of that. So let me ask some questions there too.
Is conflict. If you would ask me what religion is the conflict between you and the divine. Religion is like conflict between who you are and who you're supposed to be. Right? Like religion, like Sigmund Freud would call religion your super ego, which imposes its will on the individual. And you're in conflict. Your ego is like saying, hey, religion, calm down, I'm not ready yet. Or no, it turns to you, the immature id, and says, hey, guy, grow up. It's time. So religion, by definition, is conflict. I don't know if there's a better way to describe embracing religion than embracing conflict.
You never think of it off the top of your head, though. When you talk about religion, you're 100,000% correct, obviously, and well, you're biased, but I assume you agree with me. So
well, you have to ask my wife and my parents.
Say that again.
You have to ask my wife and my parents if they agree.
Oh no. That's a whole nother story now. There's different stories all the way around. Show them this. I'll go the safe route. Now we got off on something, and I did not even remember what we were talking about. Religion, but I'll come back to it. Yeah. So, but with you getting into it, it's interesting how you say and talk about that conflict being religion and your God, my God and me, and the conflict of everything you just said. But what's interesting is it's always portrayed as something totally different when you open up a conversation, right? I mean, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name, holiness, peace, the visions of throughout history of religion are first thing you say, is it necessarily conflict, is it?
Well, I'll tell you,
I love that though.
I adapted this idea from Carl Jung. Are you familiar with any of
For
Carl
who?
Jung's work?
I am not familiar. No.
Oh, you should be.
Tell me about him.
Gustav Jung was a Swiss psychiatrist, a scary individual. He created most of our understanding of psychoanalyzing. He was a student of Sigmund Freud. They got in a fight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they got in a fight. Believe it or not, he was the religious one. Sigmund Freud, who was Jewish, was agnostic, wasn't religious. But yep. Carl Jung, who was probably his best student before they got in their spat, he was religious, was a Catholic, was a Christian, and Carl Jung wrote a book called Answers to Job. Right. So, are you familiar with the book Job?
Yes.
So Job is this human who's in crisis. Right. His kids get sick and die, loses his money.
Yes.
Nobody really knows when Job really lived, and Job screams out to God, and God can't answer him. Right.
Let me ask you something real quick. I then go right back to the story. Are you a I don't know what the right word is, preacher? So you're this is the way it should always be presented so far. I mean, doesn't it make more sense as a better explanation of the description of religion and what you're saying is easy to follow?
I don't know why
and
people have
to
such
get
a hard time understanding it. Nobody ever lives up to their religion, right?
Nobody.
So you're in conflict with your religion.
Yeah.
Look, I took this idea from two sources. I'll tell you. Really, one of them I see on my screen. I'm like moving slow. I don't know why that is.
You are a little draggy. Sorry.
Yeah. Let me know if there's something I can do about it.
Yeah. Well, while we were talking about that, what is one piece of advice? And this is kind of a key question when you're talking long-term conflict. So, there's different levels of how much somebody practices religion and their God and church and all that. But there's how do you suggest people rethink maybe what they are thinking, what they're all about?
Well, conflict is an art. It's an art. You have to be good at it. It's an art. You can't, if you're bad at conflict, you'll be stuck in long-term conflict because you have to know two things about my rules, at least. I created rules for myself about conflict, right? From witnessing hundreds and probably thousands of cases. If you're going into conflict, like you're going into court, let's discuss, you're going in front of a judge to present the conflict. You have to, the only way you to be this successful is following two pieces of advice that I've seen. A, you have to be ready to lose. You see, and this is extremely important about conflict. No two humans.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Oh, you cannot. When you're not ready to lose, and I'll try to explain what that means. Good. No two humans think alike, right? No two humans, and it's, by the way, it's the fundamental idea of religion and God is that God didn't create any two humans the same because then he just wasted his time, right? So the fundamental part of religion, the fundamental part of religion is no two humans think the same. So therefore, God is ready for all humans to run into conflict. Because either I could just lie to you and tell you that I agree with everything you say, or I could be honest, but then we're going to have conflicting opinions because no two humans think the same. So what is...
I love it.
Wait, so what is the option? The option is either, right, that I convince you that I'm right. So I look at you like a mirror. I totally ignore your insides and your soul and your uniqueness and your godliness. And I say, hey, tell me I'm correct, right? We call that in English a narcissist. Right? Like, reflect my opinion back to me. That's one way to argue with someone and maybe win, or at least think you win. Or it's like, okay, I have one opinion and you have another opinion, and each of us believe the other person is wrong. So how could we take these two opinions, have conflict, and come up with a third resolution? And that third resolution cannot come into existence without the conflict.
True.
Right? If you think about it, like, look,
that is so...
If you think about it this way, I know better than anybody that I'm a fool, right? I know better than you, right? That I'm foolish because I know what I do that's foolish. So Why would I ever rely on my own opinion?
Yeah, same with me.
So what I do is I find someone else just as foolish as I am, and I share with them my opinion, and then they tell me, no, here's where the foolish parts of it is. And they help me purify it. And maybe they help me disregard my whole opinion and come up with a new one, which I cannot do without conflict. So you have to be ready to lose, which means you have to be ready to change your perspective when you're going into conflict. Doesn't mean you're gonna lose. Great. That's one. You got to do that, or else you can't win.
That's what I was going to say earlier, but it's funny because it's not funny, but it's amazing we came together because it sounds like you're talking about the show. We talk about conversations, but I mean, the whole thing is, that's why we have the people that are coming in, because they're learning about a new topic. And so they have their decision, or I mean, their image, you have yours, and that's perspective. Thank you. Let me hit a couple of, no, go back to your story, and I'll just look for them on the screen so you can flow into them. They're kind of coming in good order to answer, if you don't mind. I'll pop them up on the screen.
I understood religion as conflict from two sources. Number one, from Carl Jung, his book Answers to Job, which is a very deep idea. It was, could God inside a human, because that's what humans believe. They believe they're a vessel of God, right? A vessel of truth. Could God inside a human communicate with the God outside the human? That's what Carl Jung's book was about. It's a tiny book. You should buy it. Answers to Job. A tiny book.
Answers to Job. I've heard of that actually.
Oh, it's
I'm good. While you're talking about it, I'm going to type that in there.
Yeah, Answers to Job, and from my understanding, the book is trying to figure out the conflict between God inside the human and God outside the human, which are really the same God. They're all one, and why they have a hard time communicating. And that's where I took the idea that religion is conflict tremendously.
My typing is horrible. I'll work on that later. I'll jump off the scale.
It's a deep, great, scary book.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's awesome, the approach that's taking. And it's funny, your topic, because I mean, we could get into, so I've had several different religious leaders on and talking about the different religions.
I'm not a religious leader. I'm
a
student of religion.
Exactly. People that are talking about a certain religion.
I'm still searching. I'm not ready to lead yet. Those who are ready to lead, those think they figured it out already.
Yeah, that's true. And nobody has, right?
Exactly.
And that's kind of
they don't realize it's still a conflict. It's still, you know the Jewish name that the Jewish people chose for a homeland. It's called Israel. You know where the word Israel comes from? It comes because
where?
It comes because one of our forefathers, Jacob, right, one night dreamt that he was wrestling with God. Right?
Wow.
And he wrestled with God, and in the morning, God or the angel of God asked him, said, "Please release me." And he said, "No." They were still wrestling, and Jacob was hurt. It hurt. He moved his Achilles tendon out of place, and that's why the Jewish people don't eat the Achilles tendon till this day for that reason. Oh yeah, our meats are different. We cut that part out, and God or the angel of God turned to him and said, "Why aren't you letting me go?" And he said, "Bless me." So he said, "What's your name?" He said, "My name is Jacob." Jacob means the name that tricked his brother into receiving ownership, because Jacob was the younger brother, his older brother, and he deceived him. The biblical text talks about. And the angel of God, or God, told him, "No, your name should not be Jacob anymore. It should be Israel, because you wrestled with God and you were successful." The name of Israel is
so how does that,
the nation that wrestles with God.
Wow.
Yeah,
man, you're at a whole nother. I've got to listen to you. We got to talk more.
Wrestling with God, we haven't figured it out. Yeah. We're still figuring it out. We're still wrestling. That's why there's still so much war going on. Everyone's wrestling with God. Like Socrates, who was a philosopher. Before he became a philosopher, he was a wrestler. Because what's the difference?
Oh yeah,
what's the difference?
That's
yeah,
true.
What's the difference? They're the same. It's the same idea. You're always wrestling, and you should always be wrestling. The second you think you know the answers, you just prove to everyone how stupid you are.
Yeah, that's. Now, let me ask you this. Just let me interject this. I just came across, and I hope this question isn't out of line or anything. I'm not saying anything, but was it the original?
Nothing's out of line for me. You could.
Was it the original, the Adam and Eve? Weren't they expelled out of the Garden of Eden for wanting to gain knowledge? That's a little conflict there, isn't it? Or no?
Well,
Am I
well,
misreading
well,
that?
well, it is conflict because they wanted to become conscious, right?
Yes.
And to become conscious is painful. You got to you get kicked out of the Garden of Eden when you become conscious. Like a baby's in the Garden of Eden, because the Garden of Eden means fence. Eden means fence, and a garden is like a fenced garden. It's like, well, this is how much I have to care about, nothing more. And it's like, no, you got to be conscious about so many other things now, about North Korea, about Russia, about Ukraine. Like, no, I want to just be a kid. I want to be in peace. I don't want to be conscious of everything. So coming into conscious is painful, and you get kicked out of the Garden of Eden. You can't go back in. You can't become unconscious. Maybe go to sleep for a little bit at night, but it doesn't work. And yeah, they got kicked out, and they entered conflict. They end knowing is being, and being is not fun, because you got to be different than you want to be. And it's like, and then you ask yourself at night, like, why did I just do that? That's conflict. You sit at the end of the bed, you're like, wow, that was so foolish. And hopefully you learn. And I think by I don't know how old you are, but I believe by 60, that's when humans start getting comfortable with who they are.
62.
Yeah, so at 60, there's this text that says, at 60, you hit the age of being comfortable with you being you. And that's like, that's resting. That's the next half of life. Like, now I know who I am.
It's interesting you say that, because I always thought that it would be in my 50s, which were insane. They were horrible. They were, no. That's part of the reason I'm doing this, right? I thought that's where you were at your peak. I was nowhere near my peak compared to now, and being confident about it, accepting. Yes.
It's almost a fact. Like, you have like almost two brains in your head, right? Because you sometimes talk to yourself, right? So it's like one brain talking to another brain, right? So it's like those two brains, I think, mesh when you hit 60. I saw texts that say that.
Okay. All right.
Like,
yeah, I get that.
You become one with your demons at 60. That's what I found.
I've accepted I got him too, right? Yeah. You're not denying that fact.
Yeah. But conflict, for me, without conflict, life wouldn't be worth living.
No, absolutely. Where did you come up with this? Is this something that you tell people, or is this something that you wrote a book about, or?
So
I'm just diving around.
On my free time, I'm trying to write a book. I'm actually trying to write a book about divorce conflict, because.
Oh, okay. With this kind of approach? This kind of approach? Oh, dude, that's going to be a great book.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be interesting.
I think I'm going to title the book, my publisher's helping me, which is, you don't fall in love with who you can marry, you fall in love with who you can divorce. If you can't divorce this person, don't marry them.
Okay, why is that?
Well, because 58% chance it's going to end up in a divorce. You might as well.
There's 50-50. That's true.
No,
you're
more
right.
than that. But like life, like Aristotle said, you don't see civilization by when things are doing well. You see how strong they are when things are falling apart. You want to see how strong your relationship with your significant other is. You really want to see if you could go through a divorce healthy. You want to see if you go through conflict healthy. Not marriage is about conflict. Marriage is, for 20, 30, whatever year you want to get married, I developed who I think I am. I developed a personality, a persona. I have my lifestyle. And now I'm marrying somebody else who has a different persona. And you know what? They're not going to share that real persona with me until I don't share that real persona with them. And that's not going to happen until you guys get married. You can date for 10, 20 years. It's bull. I'm very against dating before marriage, but that's a whole different conversation. Right? Because all you're doing is lying to each other the whole day. It's like, what's dating before marriage? It's like I'm going to make believe I like you until someone else better comes along.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, that's no.
And if they don't, I gotcha.
Yeah, there's no way to start a marriage. And you know what? You're not married until you don't get married. You could date for 10, 15 years, get married, get divorced 6 months later. And I've seen it.
Wow, yeah.
Because marriage means like
everything changes. Everything changes at that point.
Yeah, that's why narcissists are great at dating, but they suck at marriage. Because as a narcissist, it's very good. You come across competent. You come across amazing. You have assurance. It's like, You're the best out there. And then it's like you get married, and marriage is about now creating a third opinion. It's not the husband's opinion. It's not the wife's opinion. It's the marriage's opinion. Like, who controls a marriage? The marriage does.
Mm-hmm.
Not the husband, not the wife. The marriage does. And I can
100%.
promise you that. And what does it mean, the marriage? Well, the marriage is the best of me and the worst of me, the best of you and the worst of you, getting into conflict and creating our house called the marriage, and make sure it's stable. So if you're not going to have conflict, you're going to end up in divorce. I promise you that. Like, if you're going to ignore conflict and push it under the table, after 10,000 conflicts, they're going to blow up, and you're not going to be able to settle it because you don't even know where to settle. But if you understand right when you get married, you turn to your spouse and say, I'm different than you. How are we setting up our bedroom? This is the way I like it. Why? Because of this. This is the way you like it. And there's a contradiction, inherently contradiction. You like this for dinner, I like this for dinner. Well, the solution is going to be godly, because the solution is going to be something that me and you couldn't come up with on our own. It could only come into existence because of the conflict. And you know what? I would have never known that I actually like that food without that conflict if we were figuring out where we should go for dinner. So the creation of conflict for me is godly. And without it, God might not even exist, because it's just my narcissistic opinion. And that's why we're suffering so much divorces, because there's so many narcissists out there who think their opinion is the right way. Like,
where do you think that comes from? Do you think that's more now than it used to be? Than being not, there's so many narcissists out there.
Well, that's society.
Is that just the nature of
narcissists? Society tells us, like, I read an article that California spent billions of dollars educating kids on self-esteem. I don't know what self-esteem is. I don't know what self-esteem is yet. I'm trying to figure it out. I don't really know what self-esteem is, but I could tell you, convincing yourself and really working hard to figure out why your opinions are correct it's a disaster for marriage. Here, someone just asked the question. Your experience is incredible. What's the most rewarding part of being a mediator? So look, there are two. I'm going to jump right into mediation, because a lot of people were writing on the bottom about mediation. Mediation is not arbitration. I do it. Mediation is where. Mediation is not where they come and they say, hey, make a decision about our conflict, like almost like a judge. That's what arbitration is. They sign a proper document that says you have power just like the judge does. Mediation is help us resolve this conflict. Like, almost like be a conductor to the choir. If you're a good enough mediator, maybe you can help us come with solutions that we're both agreeing to. So the most rewarding part of being a mediator is almost acting and helping them create this third godly experience that they needed your help. So they both have conflict, and it's not who's right. That's arbitration. Who's right? It's like, okay, you want A, you want B. Could I help you create C? And that is nothing more rewarding than being part of that.
You know, I actually have I've been involved in that, and you're right, because with my ex-wife, we were married 23 years. We're now friends again, better friends probably than we were married, but we went through, we had this thing, right? And it had to do with property and, different stuff. But at the end of the day, neither of we pretty soon came together, because the other thing made sense too, when looking at them both, right?
And it has to be like that. Like, someone just asked the question, said, any memorable cases that change your perspective?
Yes.
I'm honestly not embarrassed to say that every case that I got changed my perspective.
My perspective on things are changing right now. It's bizarre. You're a perspective changer guy.
Look, I'm telling you, when you mediate so much conflict, look, I mediate political conflict also, and religious conflict, because very often in a religious community, you have one parent that leaves the community during the divorce, or because of their divorce, or that's why they're getting divorced. And it's like, how do you mediate two opposite truths, religious versus non-religious, or Republican versus Democrat, or pro this versus pro that? And how do you mediate that? Like, how do you do that? Like, I'm waiting for the time. I'm going to correct myself in a second, but I'm waiting for the time that instead of a presidential debate, there's a presidential mediation.
A presidential what?
Mediation. I try to do it once here locally in New York, where I live in New York, the politics are out of control. I mean, it's out of control.
They're nuts. they're nuts and been nuts forever.
And my message from my small New York community where I live is, you better watch out that I don't get a lot of followers on social media, because I'm going to start talking, because it's not normal. The abuse that people do in politicians to stay away from conflict.
They sit there and they lie. They lie. They say things like they're facts until people believe that they're facts.
And people do that in
politicians
conflict.
Narcissists
are insane. Do that in conflict, because if they're not interested in bending their opinion, you see, Republicans aren't interested in bending to Democrats. Democrats aren't interested in bending to Republicans. I happen to be happy because when the country's divided, I know that there's no world war, there's no Hitler that's going to pop up when it's divided. So I like division in that way. So division is healthy for totalitarianism. But come on, guys. Both of you are so correct. No one's correct. Nobody knows what they're doing. And over here locally on a small level, in New York politics, it's beyond disgusting. Like, guys, let's negotiate. Let's come up with the solutions. New York State is 50-50 almost, right? It's a balance between blue and red the whole entire time. Let's talk. Let's communicate. Let's maybe create a third decision. But you know what? People aren't going to do it because they make money by people thinking that they're against something. I see it. I was at a fundraiser 2 days ago. I'm not going to mention who. Someone's running for Congress, and they started their fundraiser. And I went there, to show her support. I happen to like her as a human, as a good person. And she gets up and she's like, "I'm angry at the way the country's going," and everyone starts clapping. I'm like, let's not start life about I'm angry. Let's start like, I have this opinion and I haven't figured out how to communicate across the aisle yet, but we're gonna figure it out. And you know what? If you can't mediate and you can't de-escalate conflict, you don't have God in your life. You don't have the third decision. You need to have contradiction in order to create unique perspectives. If not, you're just a world of narcissists. And America is becoming a world of narcissists. We only value our own opinion. Before. Like, value someone else's opinion more than yours, because I'm telling you, every human knows deep down how stupid they are. Like, I know better than you how stupid I am. Why am I valuing? I should value your opinion more than mine, because I don't know how stupid you are yet. You'll share with me maybe. But right now, I know that my opinion is biased.
You may find out, right?
Exactly. So I think conflict needs to be taught. Self-esteem needs to be taken away. It's like you should have enough self-esteem to be able to be wrong. That's what you should work on. You should work on enough self-esteem that you could be wrong.
Yeah, that is absolutely beautiful. Stepping back about a little bit.
There's a dog in our office that just broke into my office. Let me just start to get
really?
Yeah, just 1 second. And it's very exciting.
I have 2 dogs. Sometimes they come on the show by accident.
Yeah, I feel you. On the show.
I'm so sorry. No problem. Oh my gosh.
What kind of dog? What kind of dog?
Podcast. Here's show it, everyone.
Oh, wait. Oh, how cute. Oh, have you ever seen those things on TikTok where, "Hi there," and it's this little dog running around?
That's how I feel in our office.
The same one.
Sorry. That looked like that dog. That was cute. Tell your dog we appreciate you stopping by.
It's not my dog. It's not my dog.
Or tell her dog that it's look at the more people jumped on when that happened. I love it. All right. What I was going.
By the way, I want to hear something really crazy that just popped into my head because of dogs.
What?
There's the Hebrew word for dogs is kalev. You could Google this.
Kalev?
Kalev. Calev.
Okay? Kalev. Gotcha. Or is it pronounced Kalev?
Yeah, that's how it's pronounced. The way you just said it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. In Hebrew, that's broken from 2 words: kal, which means full, and lev, which means heart. The Hebrew word is they're full of emotion. Okay.
Absolutely.
Now there's this verse. 1 second. There's this verse in biblical text. You could Google it, where God says anybody who trades a dog for a lamb, so they barter. A guy wants to buy a lamb, doesn't have it, so he has a dog. So he transfers his dog, his ownership, to the owner of the lamb, and he takes this lamb to sacrifice it to God. God says, I don't want to accept it if it came from an exchange of a dog, because it says, I hate. God writes these words, I hate dogs. And everyone's like, what? How does God say I hate dogs? God can't. He created it. And one of the commentaries that I saw, it said, no, God doesn't hate dogs. He hates anyone who's full of emotion, who cannot realize the difference between good and evil.
Oh, wow.
It's like, I hate those who can't argue. I hate those who are just so full of emotion that they love everything no matter what. It's like, no, pay attention, have conflict, realize there's good and evil, negotiate between it.
Hey, let me ask you real quick, just going back to that the House, the Senate, the Democrats, the Republicans, the absolute crazy lies that are coming on, and the horrible way our country's being driven for decades. You know, I'm not picking on one party or the other. I hope this administration kind of cools some other stuff down and, you know, kind of gets it more like that 50-50 thing versus some of the, but do you ever think, and do you think soon, or, and this is a guess, but how do you see us getting our politicians, our politics? How do you see us getting to the mediation? Can that happen as corrupt as everybody is right now?
You can't mediate unless you're willing to be wrong. It's my first.
How do you
rule.
make them do it?
Well, you have to realize that you're not as smart as you think you are. You know, I saw this speech from George Washington one time when he became president of the United States of America.
Smart man.
A smart man. He gave a speech because it looks like he wanted to go into retirement, right? And they voted him and they convinced him that he should be president. He's like, "Look, I got you guys in America. Let me relax. You know, I have to leave you guys."
I remember that. Yeah.
They pushed him. They pushed him, and he gave a speech, and it's a very weird speech, very short. You can Google it, and it says something like "You're taking me out of my retirement," and he writes like this: "You're taking me out of my retirement to read between the lines, almost." Like, it's not anymore what's right or wrong. It's how do I navigate what's right or wrong. And what I think America forgot is everybody convinced themselves that there's right or wrong. There's something beyond right or wrong. There's something beyond good and evil, like Beach just said. It's the solution, and you cannot come to the solution unless you're ready to shed your perspective. You know, we spoke about the Garden of Eden before. You know what the biblical text said, what happened when they were kicked out of the Garden of Eden? God put angels right outside the Garden of Eden with fire and with swords that were swinging around that they can't get back in. That's what the text says. Read it. Open the old Bible, and it says when they kicked out, they turned back and they saw, and there was fire and angels with knives blocking the entrance. You know what that means? You want to get back into the garden, you have to shed your opinion before you get back in. You got to burn your opinion, or else you can't get back into paradise. The way back into paradise is by shedding your opinion. It's like by maturing, being in conflict with who you're supposed to be and who you are, and being ready every day to get gaslit and realize that your reality of yesterday could improve and could be a different reality today. And we're in a society that we're not ready, where you don't have enough self-esteem to get gaslit every single day. We every day have to wake up and say, maybe my perspective from yesterday was wrong. And if you can't do that, you're no different than an animal who just has their perspective and keeps on it with the whole entire life. And you know what? Society doesn't have enough self-esteem, no matter how much billions of dollars California spent to teach. They have self-esteem that says, I'm scared to be wrong. Why are people scared to be wrong? Like, why are you married to your opinion? It's just an opinion. And it's like, it's not even that valuable. You can't even sell it online. Like, it's just a stupid opinion. Be wrong. That's how you embrace conflict. And every day you walk out in the street and you meet someone else and you're like, hey, you're a human. You have an opinion. Can I share with you my opinion? You share with me your opinion. And that way we could argue and become whole. We could have peace. Wow. Peace doesn't mean we're going to think the same. Peace means that we came up to a resolution. But if you're not ready to be wrong, if Israel's not ready to be wrong, if the Arabs aren't ready to be wrong, if Ukraine's not ready to be wrong, if Russia's not ready to be wrong, if America's not ready to be wrong, if everybody's so egotistic and narcissistic that they think they're all correct, well, good luck. Go marry mirrors. And guess what? That's why people marry mirrors. I call it masturbation, mirrors. It's the same thing. You know, it's like people are only in love with themselves.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask you something. The conflicts that are going on and the way that we're headed, do you see where does this all come? I mean, are we just continuing down that road that's on the foot on the pedal and going full blast into a wall? Because here's what everything you're saying makes perfect human sense. It should be very understanding understood and understandable. The fact that people are going, the fact that people are going in a direction that is ungodly, like, is that reversible?
Yeah.
Well, I know it's reversible.
Of course, I think it's reversible any minute. Any minute, Messianic vision, which in my opinion is two people getting along. That's literally what it is. Maimonides writes that the only thing that's going to change in the Messianic world is the wolf and the sheep are going to start getting along. Right? That's what Maimonides writes. He said there's going to be no other change than just humanity. And it's not like the wolf is going to become a sheep and the sheep is going to become a wolf. No one's going to transition. It's that you're going to be able to get along. That could happen any minute. It could happen any minute. I really fundamentally believe, like Maimonides writes, that any second, I can look out the window and there's going to be something that can happen to the world that's going to unite us in a way that we're going to be ready to agree to disagree. That's unification. Unification is agreeing to disagree, realizing we're different, because that creates God. The disagreements create God, not the agreements. The agreements create narcissism. The agreements means I'm saying that God didn't create you to be unique. That's why you're agreeing with me. The disagreement is like, no, God created you. God created me, both our own perspectives. God put us through a life that created perspectives. And now these two perspectives are going to clash until a third perspective is created. And that can happen any second. And I wait with bated breath. And every morning I get up and I don't fail. And I say, I believe with full faith that the Messianic movement could happen any second. And even though I waited so long for it to happen and it hasn't happened, I believe it still can happen. I say that part of my prayers every day.
So do you think that is that kind of the way the in the scripture? And I'm sorry, I'm being very vague about I am religious. I'm a Southern Baptist, but I'm curious about all the religions. And to your point, that I wanted to not pass up is I watched this show, and I don't remember. I don't watch the show, but I see the little clips on him. You know him. He's all over the place. But this show is. But there was a comment. He was playing darts. He's an American high school football coach going through a divorce. Somehow he ends up in London as a soccer coach, which is football. So they're playing this game of darts, and they wager a bet, and he kind of set up this guy, and the scene setting this guy up is I think it was a Walt Whitman phrase that he coined, and he said, people used to always judge me. People always used to judge me, and then well, first of all, he looked at the sign written on this painting written on the wall, and it said, be curious, not judgmental. And he went through this little exercise of, if they were curious, he would have asked me, hey, have you ever played darts before? And I would have answered yes, for 16 years until my dad died. We went down to the local bar every day and played it. So that's kind of a simplified, watered down version but I really like that. Be curious, not judgmental.
You don't really gain anything when you're judgmental.
No, it's that egotistical thing again.
Curious is creative. It's like successful mediation is when you could create a solution. You can't do that without being curious. You can't. Most mediations that exist are like navigating the conversation until the individuals come to some type of an agreement. Like, you take this, I take this, you take this, I take this. Very few successful mediators could create solutions and be like, okay, you're saying A, B, and C, you're saying D, E, and F. You go back for a few seconds, like, okay, what's the solution to this? What's the solution to this? There's a great Hebrew book about this, but it's in Hebrew, written by an influencer, actually, a YouTube influencer. He's a rabbi. His name is Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson. He has a nice amount of followers. Cool, very good, very cool guy. I like him a lot. And
cool name too.
Yeah. And he wrote this book. It didn't become famous. I don't know why, which is called The Secrets of Exile. The Secrets of Exile. And the book is that God came to this world and realized that the world is not ready for his opinion. So he went into hiding to recreate his opinion.
Wow.
And that's why God is in hiding, because he's like, my opinion conflicted with humanity. It's a great book. I'm talking about, he goes through the way teachers start educating classes. Like a teacher comes in with a class. You share it with the class, and then you watch their faces, and their faces respond to you, and they're like, no, we don't fully understand what you're saying. There's conflict here. And the teacher could either be a narcissist and push the information, or he could say, oh my gosh, retreat, reinterpret the information again to give it over. And that's this book. That's what God did. It's like, hey, I have the Bible, I have the laws, and he gave it over to humanity, but humanity couldn't cope with it. So God disappeared to rewrite them. Like, that's his idea of exile. It's a very deep idea. A great book. I love the book. It's in Hebrew.
It is.
Unfortunately, he should write it in English. And he probably spoke about it on one of his YouTube classes, because he speaks a lot. He speaks, I think, 7-8 times a week on social media for like long classes. Wow. And a very talented individual. And when I read that, I'm like, you know what? That's what mediation needs to become. I hear conflict. I disappear now and say, okay, what's the resolution? Because when they can't see each other's perspective. I need to take the two perspectives and create chemically a new answer. And that answer could help them. And that answer, I call that answer God. Because it didn't come through a human experience. Because one human couldn't come to this resolution. You needed two conflicting human experiences to have a chemical reaction to create the third. That idea is godly, at least.
That's awesome. Let me ask you. You mentioned a little bit ago about the, and we got to hit a couple of these questions. They're starting to stack up. But is the event that you talked about that you've been waiting for your whole life, as everybody is, and you know it's going to happen, and it's just going to all of a sudden be everybody's going to like each other? Is that the second coming of?
Everyone's going to be
is that
conflict?
Is that when? I know we talk about the the return of God to the people, and there's all sorts of pictures and stories that it is, but is that how literally peaceful the second coming of God would be?
There's
Are they combined? Are they connected?
Yes, and there are many arguments about the second coming.
Yeah.
View, the Arab, the Muslim view, the Jewish view. Maimonides, who quotes the Jewish view, Maimonides says that the definition means nothing will change except humans will be able to get along. That's the second. That's the coming of Maimonides. That's what Maimonides says. Utopia, Messianic, is only humans being okay with conflict. That's it. That's going to change. And there are a lot of other Jewish philosophers that argue on him. But I'm a big fan. I studied in the universities that just studied Maimonides' work. I'm a big fan of Maimonides. And it seems Maimonides in his chapters that discusses the future, he says that a messianic vision is just humans getting along. He says it's the wolves and the sheep getting along.
Yeah. What is Messianic? How are you saying that?
Messianic. It's like
Messianic?
Messianic, yeah. The Messianic vision, according to Maimonides, is humans getting along. He writes it clearly. You can check it up online. Google Maimonides. I think it's in chapter 9 of Kings, where he discusses the future of kingdoms. Chapter 9, he says, these are the words. There's no difference between our world and a messianic world except people getting along. And he adds in, and therefore no tyranny from the government. Because when humans get fully along, you don't need tyranny from the government.
That's 100%.
And once you don't have tyranny from the government, you could be you.
I talk about on the show a lot, and I'm writing a book, by the way. It's the draft. I'm not the draft. The book summary and the book proposal. It's a nonfiction book proposal is ready and all that. Now that I've been doing the show, I've been working on it more. Got a whole chapter in there about religion. Mm-hmm. What is this question here? I think it's kind of coming at the wrong direction of it, isn't it?
No. I like the one that says this is eye-opening. How can individuals improve their negotiation skills?
Well, that part, that's good.
I'll tell you. It's a very good point. There's one tool that's been quoted. I've seen it in a book that was written 1,500 years ago. I've seen it again repeated by Maimonides 800 years ago, and I've seen it again repeated in the Code of Law, in the Jewish Code of Law 400 years ago. But recently, Carl Rogers, who was a great communicator, he wrote a book about communication, Carl Rogers, after World War II and during World War II. He was a missionary, so he knew how to communicate very well.
Yes.
He wrote this idea, and the new terminology for it is called looping or mirroring, which is, I don't argue with you until I don't tell you back what your opinion was perfectly. That's the best tool for conflict. I use it, you should use it. It's like, okay, if I understand you correctly, you're saying A, B, and C, and therefore you're saying D, E, and F, and therefore you're saying 1, 2, 3. Do I understand you correctly? Yeah, you do. Okay, great. Now let me share with you my opinion. You do not repeat your opinion before you don't repeat the other person's opinion first and correctly. And in Jewish law, I'll tell you something fascinating in Jewish law. The opinion that we follow in Jewish law, because there are a lot of arguments, I told you, there are a lot of school of thoughts. The opinion that we follow today is a certain school of thought known as the school of Hillel, right? And the Talmud asks, like, why did he merit that we rule like him? And it said whenever he said his opinion, he said over his colleague's opinion first. He used to say, well, they say A, B, and C, and I say D, E, and F. Like, we're ruling like you, because we know you know both opinions.
Right.
So you want to know what the tool of conflict is? Being able to repeat the other person's opinion perfectly. Then you can share your opinion. You can't do that, don't get into conflict.
Huge. What do you think about this? As far as cultural differences, obviously everything has its place to affect something else, but is there really a cultural difference when you're actually doing mediation? It's more about the point versus the way somebody was brought up, or does that have an effect?
Well, depends how married people are to their culture, right? If you're married to your culture in a way that you're not ready to change anything in your culture, you're not ready for dispute resolution.
Yeah.
Right? You have to be ready. You have to be ready that your perception of your religion might be wrong before you get into conflict. And that's okay. That's okay that your perception of God is not real, right? Because no one's perception of God is real. It's not as real as God is because no one saw him. It's your perception. If it's you, you're a human. And if you're a human, you're filled with a lot of wrong things, right? And maybe
a lot
you're
of
biased.
Wrong things?
Yeah, if you're humans do wrong things. It's just part of life.
Yeah.
Right?
It is.
We have evil inside.
It's sin.
Exactly. So
It's
if you are human and you came up to a perception about God, which is not as real as God is himself, be ready to give it up to be able to get a deeper perception.
100%, man. 100%. Hey, let me ask you, this is an interesting question. I talked to you earlier, Jack Davey here, about we do different topics, AI being one of them, and that it looks like a young kid. Is there, it's kind of a curveball here. Do you see AI, because there's that conflict of God and the world is changing. The technology is changing. Like you said, we're a bunch of narcissists now. It's because this next generation, we raised a bunch of, the baby boomers, hey, no, everything you're doing is right. And so that's what develops out of that. Do you see with AI, I use AI, so I know it. Do you know what the effect
I
are?
use AI for everything. There's nothing that I don't use. Oh yeah. Even my kids, I make use AI for everything. It's a great tool. I remember 2 years ago, I went to this mediation conference upstate New York. There were like 100 mediators there, and the worst mediators that I've ever met. Like 100 of the worst mediators that I've ever met. And there was a class they gave on AI and mediation. Look, I don't think mediation yet perfected in order to get AI involved in it yet. But
Say that again?
I don't think mediation, you see, I'm unique in my style of mediation that I embrace conflict in the way I do.
I believe that.
Right? Other people, like, they come in with their biases and their opinions. Those mediation firms, which are about like 90% of the firms in America, right, which are people who have no clue what they're doing. They maybe were a lawyer and they were unsuccessful, so they went into mediation, or they were bored, or they like went through conflict themselves and like, we could settle every conflict. AI is not going to help for them at all. If anything, it's going to create damage. But if someone knows what mediation is about and they understand this idea of conflict, and the third answer,
great point.
I do believe AI will be able to help. Like, I've done it. I've gone into AI and I said, hey, I want you to come up with an answer that will make both of these opinions happy, right? And I wrote opinion A, opinion B. And you know what? I was very impressed because it came up with solutions that I don't know if I would ever been able to come up with. And that's creative because people are debating if AI is going to be able to be creative or not, right? Because
Well,
AI,
you know, what's funny is you train it. You know, it learns.
but the question is,
what
could it create something that doesn't exist in its system, right? Which that's the big debate about AI, because if
Right.
AI is just gathering information, it's not creating, you know, and building on information, it's not creation. The question is, could it be godly almost? Could it take two vast different opinions and create a third opinion, which couldn't come into existence without the contradiction of the two opinions? Yes, I believe AI could do it. I think it's very debatable. I think psychologists, mystics, philosophers are debating if AI is going to be able to reach such a level. I believe AI will reach a level of conflict resolution, but I believe people are going to be very scared of its answers.
Little comment here, and I agree. And it like I said, it's going to go good or bad. Like you said, it could be terrible because you're training your AI, and it's doing what it knows of that you want it to do and the way you want it to do it, and that information comes through, you know, the history that you've been building or training the AI person. Nice little comment here. Great show. Your approach to bridging differences, which man, I totally surprised by this interview. I was excited about it, but your approach, my man, is freaking amazing. It's awesome. I mean, truly one of the best approaches to life that I've been experienced to. I don't know everything or much about anything, but I do have an opinion. I do have a certain experience, and the way you're approaching your life, obviously, is because you live this. I'm sure you're freely talking about these things, and so you live it, kind of like me.
We have a joke. We have a joke. One of our founders of our university, he's not alive anymore. I never met him. Was an individual by the name of Rabbi Chaim Soloveitchik. He lived in Europe, in a town. He was the dean of a university in Volozhin. That was the town in Europe where he lived. And I learned by his great-grandson. That's why I studied by it.
Oh,
and,
wow.
Yeah, and they have a story about him. He was the founder of the university, or the thought process of the university. They have a story about him that he was a kid one time at 11 years old, and he was sitting at the table engrossed in deep thought. And some older, respectable gentleman walked into his house and told his father, like, hey, your son didn't stand up for me and show me respect when I walked in. Like, you should teach him, you know, ethics. And he answered, he's like, no, my son is busy finding a contradiction. The guy's like, what? What does that mean? He's finding a conflict, finding a contradiction. So he said, look, my son came up with an idea. He just doesn't know how to share it with the world yet. So he's trying to find a problem, a conflict that his idea could be the solution to. Right? Wow. And it's a very good joke story. It's a cute story.
That's very cool.
But it's a deep idea. Like, there are some solutions you need to find conflict to be able to share. Like, I have this opportunity, but it's a technology, and technology needs to solve something. What's the problem that this technology needs to solve? And if you don't create the problem, your technology doesn't have use, which sometimes is very dangerous and scary. You find people in government that they have monetary solutions. They just need to create sickness to be able to give their solutions out to the public, right? And I'm here.
You are so tied in.
You're so tied in. Pharmaceuticals.
Your daily job is pharmaceuticals?
Yeah, this is on the side. I do this. I work in pharmacy.
Oh man, you know, you're right in the heart of it all right now.
Trust me, and I'll tell you which drug I focus on. You ready to hear? HIV.
Tell me. Really?
Oh yeah. Created by who? You want to know by who? Who created this drug in 1988?
Who?
Dr. Fauci.
Oh, are you serious?
That's how he became famous. That's when the CBT was invented in the 80s because of HIV.
Now, is that the new one where you have where basically you don't have it anymore? I mean, you have it. You always have it.
Yeah, it's an antibiotic, so it stops the growth of HIV. It's also a pre-exposure, so it stops you from getting it. And it's a very expensive drug, and most people can't afford it. And the government has a program where they sell the drug at a discounted price to non-for-profits. So my pharmacy is only allowed to sell to non-for-profits. Only.
Oh wow!
And the non-for-profits have to have a mission statement, and they make a lot of money with the drug because they make about They buy it for a discount, but they bill insurance the full price as long as the money stays in their non-for-profit. So I help non-for-profits generate money by sharing this drug with the public, which stops and prevents HIV exposure. That's my 9-to-5 job, you know.
Is that you don't hear about it so much anymore? Is that still a big issue? Like cancer,
we're
AIDS,
we're a tiny pharmacy, right? We're servicing, I would say, over 100 non-for-profits, but we're not Rite Aid or Dwayne Reed. We're servicing
100 non-for-profits, all about AIDS.
I mean, their mission statements are usually like case management, mental health, hospitalization, but our relationship to them is through this program of getting them their drugs that they need, right?
Wow.
And yeah, that's so I can tell you the pharmaceutical politics. And by the way, the program, there's huge controversy in Congress between the right and the left over this government program that was created in 1992 by Hillary Clinton and George Bush and Dr. Fauci, right? Yeah.
Wow.
It's called 340B if you want to Google it. And anyone wants to reach out to me and become a customer, like I'm available. The 340B
put down your contact, and guess always put it in the private chat. Put it in the public chat before you leave. Go ahead.
There's a public chat.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Well, do you got it?
No. Where is it?
On my screen, it's just below. You can see the chat people here, right on the side.
I can't write. I just see.
Right down, all the way down at the bottom, there should be just an open box that you can put information in chat, like this. Hold on.
Okay.
Hello.
Okay, we'll figure it out. Yes. That's
or if you put in the private one, I'll move it over.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, so go ahead.
Yeah. So
and emotional intelligence. Bridge over into that when you're finishing your point. I like that question.
Okay. Appreciate this deep dive into arbitration. What role does emotional intelligence play in mediation? Everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. 100%. Talk about hitting it out of the park on that question.
That's a good question. I'll tell you a very interesting tool that I created. I have a tool. It's called I call it divorce dynamic assessment, right? Which assesses you right before you're going into your divorce to see if you're emotionally ready to deal with it. It's 115 questions. It's an AI program. 115 questions that come back to you within 10, 20 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, a full book about how your personality will deal with conflict emotionally.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that'd be fascinating.
I'll send you a link.
That would be.
I'll send you a link. I'll send you a link through email.
Please, you have my email, obviously.
I'll send you a link. It's. I have a few assessments. I have one before you invest with somebody to find if they're a Ponzi artist or not. I study philosophy, psychology, and AI. So based on
dude, who the heck are you? Where did you come? Where have you been hiding all this time? You're a fascinating dude, man. I mean, really, seriously. I'm not just blowing smoke up your dress, but it's a great series of things that you're exposing the world to.
So conflict is my main passion. That's my passion, and I therefore I've after being involved in thousands of cases and witnessing and looking at cases, I developed this program, this software, this algorithm that could determine based on your personality how you will act out in conflict. And it's great. And I don't take on a case without making people use it because I want to know who I'm dealing with emotionally across the table. Like, are you the type of person that is agreeable, that you just agree into everything? I don't want to mediate someone who's just agreeable because we'll take advantage of you. And you'll end up regretting it. You'll end up regretting it 2 weeks later.
That's an excellent point. The question that's now coming up, you got a bunch of compliments, by the way. I just skipped over those. You don't need that. What's the biggest misconception about arbitration? The biggest thing is that it's mediation. The misconception is that it's mediation, right? It's not. Arbitration is somebody loses.
Arbitration is you're giving up your rights. Arbitration is, you see people walk around saying arbitrators are corrupt. They're so corrupt. Of course, because you're going to lose. An arbitrator is never going to agree with you. Never, ever, ever going to agree with you. They're going to try to come up with a new solution that's their own opinion, that's not like the plaintiff or the defendant. So if you're going to arbitration ready to win, you're just a moron. If you're ready to hear a third opinion, maybe you have a chance of surviving.
Yeah. And my earlier story, that's where we started. And then I thought I'd win. And then we became in the, hey, I'm a mediator. Would you know, that worked out awesome. It was perfect. Hey, this has been a great show, Avi. And any last thoughts before I kick you back into the green room here and I finish up the tie up?
Let me try to hit with like maybe a grand slam. Let me try to get something.
You've been hitting some triples big time. There's that last one was a home run for sure. So now a grand slam. Holy crap! Hey everybody, hold on to wait. Let me warn everybody because I can feel this is going to be huge. I'm setting this up too much. I know I am.
I know. Now I'm getting nervous. Give me a second.
All right, breathe, deep breath. Conflict resolution.
I'm going to stick with my line that I love saying. Marry someone you could get divorced from. Go into partnership with somebody who you could disagree with. Don't marry someone who you could only stay married to. Don't go into partnership with only somebody you could be a partner with, because most probably the partnership is going to come to an end. And if it won't be peaceful, you're going to destroy yourself. Like I had a partner for years in a certain business venture, right? Yeah. And I trusted him fully. I didn't ever think we're going to go into conflict. And we went into conflict. It was horrible. And I would have never gone into a deal with this guy if I would have thought we would have gone into conflict. And now, since then, it's been like, no, I'm only going to deals with people who I could get in a fight with. If I can't get in a fight with you, I don't want to know you. Yeah.
That makes a hell of a lot of sense, man. Thank you so much. Say bye to everybody. Never mind. Let's say bye to everybody. We got to have you back on here because this was my
greatest pleasure. Everybody, it was so great. I'm going to try to send you a link to my my email, my company, my websites, and anybody, please feel free. My non-for-profit, what we offer are 3 services: arbitration. We have a group of great arbitrators, mediators, a group of great mediators, and also advocacy, coaching through conflict. We have a department that coaches people through conflict. Yeah. I mean, basically what I just said for the last 40 minutes is what I say over and over and over again.
Gotcha. Yeah, you're comfortable with your information, no doubt. I loved it. Yeah. Say bye to everybody, my friend.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. I cut you off a little bit there. Here, wait. Go ahead. Do it again.
Bye, everybody. It was really fun. It was really fun hanging out with everyone and answering your questions.
Yeah, me too, man. That was great. See ya. We'll stay in contact kind of thing. And I'm looking for that link. See you, bud.
Okay, amazing. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. So, wow. Woo! I was kind of feeling a little off today earlier. I think I did a show a couple of days ago that says kind of got a sore throat coming up, and I was feeling really off today, really anxious and so forth and so on. And I was looking to the show because this always is also a release for me. I get to learn stuff, and my God, that was. Like I was telling them over and over and over again, I'm so happy we did that because I how curious I am, and how I like to learn new things. And Jiminy Crickets, that was that old saying. That was awesome. Avi, you're a stud, man. That's just man to man talk. I'm not going any anyway, I'm out. You guys, thank you for coming. Great show today. Great questions. Loving the line show. So much to take away. So hey guys, love it. Keep supporting us. I think I made an announcement to you last week before last. I canceled my last contract in my business. And I've been winding that down as this has been rolling up, because this is what I want to do the rest of my life. I want to create conflict, right? I see you back there. One more thing, I think. Last comment, and then you people will add them. You know how it is. We get a lot of views after because people can't be on right now. So great points being made here. This is real knowledge. Yeah, I mean, this is where you go. Insights and Straight Talk. Look us up if you don't already know us. We are about the middle class, and we're insights, providing insights to things like Avi's approach to literally his world and business. That's a great philosophy and action. And Straight Talk, because pardon my language, Avi, I don't want to make shit up. I just want to, I see you smiling back there. I don't want to make it up. I want to become more of an interesting person because I'm very interested. Well, I better get off here. They keep talking. Let's see what we got. Fantastic dialogue. Really enjoying the discussions. Thanks, Jack. All right, I've talked too much. Stay on for the ending video. I will get that opening video done. I cut off like the second half of it. Also, I've talked to a couple of musician friends of mine, and we're working out something where that lead in can be maybe a little bit about IMS, independent media source, but the lead, it's like a house band kind of thing. Yeah, I've always wanted that. Getting that crowd all psyched up with the house band. So, well, that's coming. I don't know when, how, or where. I talked to a production friend of mine, Joe, out in California yesterday. He called me, and so we're gonna try and set something up. I think I'm actually out of breath, man. That was just emotionally exciting. Thanks again, Avi. Talk to you soon. Everybody, keep giving us your support. I love you guys. Like I always say, wave to somebody, say hi to somebody, create a vibe that's around you. So when you go into other places, into other people's spaces, you positively affect that vibe wherever you are. And these are things we have, like I talk about, we've got to unite. And the so weird. Everything he talked about is the way we like to think about this show. He just gave the answer to this show. So guys, everybody, listen up. Would everybody do what Avi said today? Because that's the utopia, brothers. All right. Love you guys. Have a great day. And I am out.